Okay, well, now we're going to show in a spreadsheet how propagation of errors works. So I'm going to open my LibreOffice, and I want LibreOffice Calc. Just wait a moment while it opens. And this one's going to be propagation of errors, so I'll say okay. All right, now if you remember in our PDF, we had certain parameters, like there was x1, x2, x3, x4. I'm going to use, let me use A, B, C, D, E. I'm going to put some extra parameters in case we need them. Let's go up go all the way up to F. Okay, that's probably a little bit wider than I need, so I'm going to make this. I'm going to select this column and hold down the shift, use the arrows to select right. And I want to make these columns narrower, so I'm going to go to column width here, and that's 8.89 inches. Let me take it down to 0.3 inches. That's probably good enough. Okay. All right, so that gives me some more room. All right. So these are the parameters that I'm going to use that my formulas will depend on. And here I'm going to give the tolerance. This is, I'll say this is I'll give the relative error. As I mentioned before, the relative error of a product of factors will lead to a relative error that's the sum of the individual relative errors. All right, so let's suppose that each one of these has a relative error of 0.01. All right, now it looks like it's too skinny now, so I'm going to make this wider. What did I say, 0.3? Let's take it up to 0.5. Or even 0.6. Let's double it. Okay, press OK. All right, that should be fine. All right, now I'm going to put the same relative error on all of these variables. So I'm going to just take this, and I'm going to hold down the shift, use the arrow, take it all the way over, and go to Edit, Fill, Right. So now all of these parameters have relative error 0.01. And let's put in some exact values as well. Okay. In order to get errors, we need to know the exact value. So let's just say 1, 2, 3, 4, and here I'll do 4.01, okay, and 5. All right. Now I need to make this a little bit wider. It's not showing everything. Okay. All right. Now, in order to see the effect of error on the results, I'm going to do some randomized errors added to these values. In these simple cases, it's not really necessary, but in more complicated cases, this can be useful. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the values. Oops, wrong place. Okay, values with errors. Okay. Let me make this wider. All right, so this is the area where my basic information is, so I'm going to highlight this in yellow. And that will set this part apart. Okay, and let me make this bold here. The bold icon is here. Okay, I can even make the text a different color to emphasize that that's the title of the spreadsheet. All right. Now what I want to do is, here I want to give not the exact value, but the exact value with a relative error. Now the thing is that the relative error in different directions will have different effects on the final value. So what I want to do is add a random error that could be positive or negative. So how do I do that? Well, because I'm typing in a formula, I'm going to want to type in equals, then I want to take the exact value times, okay, since we're talking about relative error, it's the error relative to the whole value, so I want to do 1 plus, and then the remaining term will be the relative error. Now, I want the relative error to have this size, so I'm going to put 0.01 there. And I want this error to be either +1 or -1. And I want it to be +1 or -1 randomly. Okay, that way I can see what the effects of the different signs of the errors will be on my result. So how can I get +1 or -1 randomly? Well, there's a number of ways. One way is you can do this. Recall that -1 to the 0 power is equal to 1, and -1 to the 1 power is equal to -1. So here I'm going to put -1. Let's put 2 parentheses to make it clear. -1 raised to the power. Now what I want here is a random number that's either 0 or 1. The way I can do that is use the spreadsheet function randbetween. And I want randbetween to choose an integer number. Look, it's asking me here for bottom or top. See, it says asking for bottom or top. Well, I want either 0 or 1, so my bottom value is 0, my top value is 1. Okay, one more parenthesis. And there we go. Now, in this case, the random error was +1. And since I want the random error to be able to change, I want to be able to recalculate this random number. The way to recalculate, well, if you don't know, there's always the help. Now, you should get used to using the help to find things. LibreOffice has pretty good help, so I'm going to go here, go to the help. It's taking a minute. And I'm going to ask for recalculate. Okay, look, it already guessed what I want. So I'm going to recalculate all formulas in Sheets. Double click there. Okay, here it tells me what to do. Press Shift Control F9 to recalculate all formulas in a document. All right, so if you have a document with random numbers in it, to recalculate, hold down Shift Control F9. All right, so let's see if that works. Shift Control F9. All right, now look, it changed. Every time I hit it, it will change randomly. All right, and we know that the two values are either 1.01 or 0.99. All right, now I want to get random values not just for this parameter, but for all the parameters over here. So I'm going to fill right. Okay, and we can see that this number is 2 with a small error, this number is 3 with a small error, and so on. You can check your formula here by double-clicking on the cell, and you can see it takes this exact value times 1 plus the relative error times this random factor between that's either -1 or 1. Okay? All right, now this is just one instance. I want to be able to generate multiple random values, so I'm going to take this and fill down. All right, now here's a problem. What I want to do is do multiple cases where I take the exact value and add a small error. Clearly there's something going wrong here. This is nowhere near 1. I'm not adding a small error to 1. All right, so what's going on? Well, whenever you have a cell in a spreadsheet that doesn't work well, click in it, double click in it, and see what's going on. Notice what it's doing. It's taking this value and adding a small error tolerance depending on this value. That's not at all what I want. I want to take this value plus a random error tolerance times this value. The problem is when I did the fill down, the reference shifted as well. So I want to fill down without shifting the reference. And there's a way to do this. Okay. Notice that B4 refers to this cell in column B and row 4. Right? This cell B3 refers to column B, row 3. Now, when I fill down, I want it to continue to refer to this cell in row 4 and this cell in row 3. What that means is that I want to fix the row of the reference. Now, you fix a row or column by putting a $ in front of the reference. So, for instance, this B4, as I said, this B4 refers to this column B and row 4. Now, when I fill down, I want the 4 to remain constant, so I'm going to go here and I'm going to put a $ in front of the 4. And what that will do, when I fill down, the 4 will remain constant. I'm going to do the same thing here. B3, $ in front of the 3. All right, let's see what happens when I fill down now. Holding down Shift arrow, Edit, Fill down. Okay. Now look at what's happened. All of these numbers are very close to 1. If I click in the formula, I can verify it's using the right 2 cells. All right. So let me go ahead and do that for a large number of cells. Let me go down to 50, I suppose. And we'll do Edit Fill Down. Notice here where it says Control D. Rather than going through Edit Fill Down, you can just hold down the Control button and press D, and that will do a fill down for you. Okay, so I've done fill down here. And I want to fill to the right also. So this was A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, and then I'll do edit. Whoops, missed it. Right. All right. I want to go all the way to the top. If you hold down the Shift and double click on the top edge there, it doesn't work. So we'll just go ahead. I'm going to hold down the Shift and do, well, this one doesn't work, so we'll just do it the slow way. Okay. And I want to go here, and I want to fill right. We'll go to Edit, Fill, Right. Okay. And we can see that all of our numbers are making sense here. Okay. All right, now this is a different section of my spreadsheet. I want to go ahead and make this a different color. These are just some accessory calculations. So I'm going to make this one. I guess I'll just make it brown. Okay. Now, these are parameters. As I mentioned, I want to show how the error of a result depends on the errors of the parameters contained in the result. Okay. So let's make a formula. Okay. Why don't I go ahead here and I'm going to take A times B divided by C times D. Okay. And that's the formula I'm going to do. Let's start with this value here. This is equal to, I'm going to click A times B. And whoops, I made a mistake there. Looks like times B divided by C times D. All right. All right, now that's the result. I'm going to go ahead and fill that down so I get the result A times B over C times D for all of these numbers here. And remember, I can just hit Control D and that will fill down, so that's what I'm going to do. So you can see that these numbers are not all the same. All right, let's go ahead and make this column a different color because that's a different formula. Oh, okay, I don't want to do that. Well, we can do that. Format cells. And I'll do background. Let's make this one green. Okay. Here's a nice, there we go. Oops, not that, pale green. Okay. And let me do another formula as well. Let me go ahead and do D minus E. Okay. I don't want the capital there, so I'm going to put some spaces here. D minus, stupid thing doesn't like me. Okay. I don't want capital D. Force it to little d minus E. Okay. So I'm going to put that formula in, equals D minus E. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and fill that down also. All right. All right, now, so let me make this a different color also. I think I can just do it here. I'll just choose this green here. Okay. All right, so these are two different formulas depending on these parameters. Let's see how these stack up with respect to the relative errors and so on. So I'm going to make a summary table over here. Let's make this one a little bit more narrow. And I'm going to make a summary table here. Okay, and let's make that bold because I do, and we'll also make that a different color. Okay. All right, so let's repeat here the exact value. So I want the I want the exact value of each formula, and I want to get the let's go ahead and do the mean value with errors. Then I'm going to get the max value with errors, and I'll get the min value with errors, and I'm going to get the max relative error. And I'll give that in percent. Okay, so we're going to move over a little bit here so we can see what we're doing. All right. All right, so now we're going to do this for the two formulas I have over here. One formula was A times B over C, A times B over C times D. So here I'm going to refer to the formula here. And here I'm just going to do this column, and then I should be able to fill right to get the second one. Now the exact value of this calculated quantity was the value in the first place here. That's the exact value. All right. The mean value would be the mean of that column. Now, in spreadsheets, they don't say mean, they say average. Okay, so I'm going to start here. Okay, so that's the average value. Now notice that it's slightly bigger. The errors have introduced a bias into the result. Okay, so the result that you get may not have the same expected value as the exact value. All right. Now let's look at the maximum value that we get with the errors. That would be the maximum of these cells here. Whoop. It actually doesn't matter if I go a little bit over. Okay, so that's the max value. Now notice my cells go from H from, here, let me move over so you can see what I'm doing. Sorry. Okay, the formula here was the maximum of H5 to H50. Here I'm going to want the minimum from, whoops, made a mistake. I'll hit the escape button. Here I'm going to want the minimum of from H5 to H50. Okay. And to get the maximum relative error, what I need to do is I want to find the maximum of the error of the distance from the max value to the actual value, and the distance from the min value to the actual value. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, we want to take the maximum. What's the error associated with this maximum value for my calculated parameter? Well, it's this number minus the exact value. Okay. Now, what's the error associated with this minimum value? Well, since this number is less than this, then I should take this number L2 minus the minimum value. Okay, close it. Now, since I want relative error, I need to divide this by the exact value. This numerator here is the maximum relative error, and I want to divide by the exact value. One thing that I showed in the formula earlier is we should actually take the absolute value of this. So I'm going to put ABS, that's the symbol for absolute value in spreadsheets. And then the other thing is that since we want a percent, I'm going to multiply by 100. Okay? All right, so we get a 4% error. Now, this is what I told you before. Each one of these factors, A, B, C, and D, they all have a 1% error. So we would expect in a term that multiplies them together, you're going to get a error that's the sum of these relative errors. So let's try some changes. Suppose I change this relative error to 3%. Then what do you expect the result to be? Think about it for a second, and then I'll tell you what I think. Yeah, I think that if I change this to 3%, then I'm going to get a relative error of 1 plus 3 plus 1 plus 1, or 6%. So let's see if I'm right. And we'll go over here and see what the relative error was. Okay, there we go. Relative error, 6%. All right, a little bit off, but 6%, that's good enough for government work. All right, so let me highlight this summary table in another color. We'll make it pink here. Okay. All right, now I've done the summary for this formula. Let's do the summary for the second formula. All I have to do for that is just fill right. So I'm going to go Edit, Fill, Right. Okay. Now look at this. The exact value of D minus E is minus 0.1. You can see that the values you get are very different. Your maximum relative error was 800%. Huge errors. And that's because these two numbers are very close to each other. I took 4 minus 4.01. The result is roughly 0.01, but the size of the error is roughly 0.01. So you are really getting huge errors here. All right. Now the nice thing is that if you want to investigate different things, I can change the formulas here. So for instance, if I want to do A times B over C times D cubed, I could do that. Then all I would have to do is go down here and change the formula here. A times B over C times D cubed. I'm going to have to change this formula here. Okay. And then I'd have to go down like this to the end, fill down. Okay. And let's see what I want my relative errors to be. Let's take them all back to 0.01. Okay, now you tell me what you predict the relative error should be. So think about it for a minute. All right, well, my prediction is that the relative error should add, so I get 1% error from here, 1% from here, 1% from here. I get 3 factors here, so that's 3%. So again, we should see something like 6% relative error. And we do. Okay? I'll give you other exercises to play with this, but that's all for now.